I add those, the z's cancel right away. So I'm gonna add them up, 11x minus 2y, those eliminate, equals 64. So as we're adding them, we're just getting a new equation, we're just down one variable, which is what we want. So basically, you're gonna go back and do that same step for elimination, you just have to choose a different pair. So we chose the first two, you can either choose 1 and 3 or 2 and 3. So just choose, you just need to make sure that other equation is taken into account. So I'm gonna choose 2 and 3, it doesn't matter. And then what do we get? Negative x plus 4y minus 2z equals negative 12. That one you have to do a little bit so the z's will cancel. Just make sure you have to cancel the same variable. I'll multiply this first equation by 2. And that will give me what? 10x minus 6y plus 2z equals 64. And now when I add them together, I get 9x minus 2y. My z's cancel, and that's going to equal 52. So the main goal is always to just get it down to a problem that I know how to do. And I know how to do a 2x2 system. We've been doing these, we've been practicing, you did them back in your Algebra 1. So what we do is we take these two equations and line them up. Well, that gives me 11x. These just are a lot of writing sometimes. Hopefully the actual concept isn't too terrible. I will try not to give you any like annoying answer ones, like weird fractions. I'll try to be nice. Or, excuse me, I'm not gonna add them yet. So our main goal is to get it to a place where we know how to solve. We should know how to solve this. So I'm gonna ask you, can you solve for x, y, and z from this point forward? You might have to do a little bit of finagling with those. But just in general, are you okay once we get to that part? I just want to go over the new part with you. So we'll try substitution 1 next, and then you guys will try one on your own and see how you're feeling. I'll give you another minute or two. Main goal is, can you find x, y, and z? I'm just gonna start to do mine and you guys are doing yours. I'm just gonna change all those signs because I'm lazy. Okay, so that gives me 2. So hopefully when you did that, I just multiply one of the equations by -1, or you could just subtract them, same idea, just be careful with your signs. Your x should have come out to 6, and then you basically just work your way back. Now take that x and plug it into one of these equations, one of the ones with 2 variables, to find your y, and then once you have x and y, you go back to the original and find your z, and your final answer, can you please check it, should be 6, 1, 5. So you put it in the order of x, y, z. Are there any questions to that, or would anyone like me to do a little bit more work to get those other variables?
Can you do find z?
To find z. So you got x and y?
Yeah.
Okay, which equation did you use?
I used the last one.
This one?
Yeah.
So you did negative x was 6 plus 4 times y was 1 minus 2. Be careful with your 2's and your z's. I put lines through my z's and I still almost mess them up every time, so just be careful. I kind of hate these in general. So that will give me negative 6 plus 4, which is negative 2. I guess I'll do my 2's like that.
Oh, I know what I did.
You see it now?
Yeah.
Okay, it's probably just a sign.
I subtracted 2 instead of adding 2 and bringing 2.
Okay, yep, so you would add it and then divide.
Okay.
There you go. Did anyone else have any questions or anything they'd like to go over? Okay, so general steps of elimination, you basically just want to do 2 pairs, decide a variable to cancel. That gives you a 2x2 system, and then hopefully those are review steps. Now let's look at one that kind of lends itself to substitution, just so we get a general idea of both methods. But I'm always just going to say solve. So if you have one way you like it, do it that way. Which one did I do? This one. So here's my 3 by, I have 3 equations, 3 variables, so yeah. But we notice it's not necessarily set up for elimination. We don't have all 3 variables for every equation, which is perfectly fine. Some have, 2, and then those have a different 2. So I'm just gonna use substitution. I also am gonna use it because it's not gonna be that bad. I need to isolate a variable, but I can isolate this y pretty easily just by moving the z. So I'm gonna rewrite that as y equals z plus 11. And then I'm gonna use this to substitute in for y's in my 2 other equations. So if you notice, elimination isn't your thing, feel free to use substitution. Just make sure you can isolate a variable pretty easily. So I take both equations, I'll take that second equation. For y, I'm putting in z plus 11. As I'm doing that, I'm just also gonna simplify everything as much as possible. So I have 3x, I can combine these z's. And I'm gonna get my constants together. I just don't want too many terms, it gets a little confusing. Oh, that would give me 51. That's looking a little bit better. Then I do the same thing in the third equation. For y, I plug in z plus 11. But I'm gonna also just kind of simplify that down. And I'm just going to get my constants together, just to make it a little bit nicer, less terms. Main goal is always get it to a 2x2 system, so then we can actually solve it. So I end up with 3x plus 10z equals 51, and negative x plus 2z equals 15. So if you guys could take a minute or two, can you solve this for x and z, and then go back and find out what your y is. Main goal is always get it to a point that we already know how to solve. So can you please try that? And then after this, I'm going to have you try one on your own and see what questions you have as you're working. another minute, we'll kind of see what we're getting, how we're feeling. I'm gonna try one on your own. I'm sorry for that noise, by the way. The heater makes a weird noise. You don't have to be tortured by it. So let's check our answer. See how we feel. In general, with the 3x3, I'll always try to give you like kind of a nice answer, like integers, like crazy, it'll be like a half or something. I'm not gonna give you those crazy answers like 92 over 124 or something, or 127. So if you get it something crazy, kind of go back and check. But in general, I'll just kind of give you the answer and I'll see if anyone would like to go over this. That requires me to actually find this problem on here. Okay, so when you go through and solve, you can decide, I'd probably cancel the x's and find the z. And then you would work your way back. And your final answer should have been -3,17,6. Would anyone like to go over how to solve or find any of these variables? Yes.
I need to go over them. I just
Okay.
have a question.
Sure.
So when we're solving, and say we start off with doing like substitution,
Sure.
but then we get the two equations, can we do elimination?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah, so once you get to the thing, you can choose your method. A lot of times it just has to do with what the setup is. So whichever you prefer, go with that one.
Okay.
They will give you the same answer. So, yep, either way is fine. Anyone else have any questions, whether it's on that problem or anything in general with 3x3 of systems? Okay, so I'm gonna have you guys try one. I'm just gonna say solve it, do whatever you feel is gonna make you happy, I don't really care. But try this one. I know these take a few minutes, so I'll try not to rush you. I'll give you a few. Make sure I wrote that right. That's it. So, first thing is just kind of organize. Which method do you want to use? So kind of, think which method. I don't know. Sometimes you just maybe like one method more than the other. Once you decide that method, just make sure you know those kind of initial steps of the setup, and then hopefully it always gets down to a place where you can solve it from there and work your way back. If you get stuck, if you get weird answers, if you just have like a quick question, feel free to ask me. I'm happy to come help you. Or you can just yell to me, whatever works. But I'm going to give you a few minutes. I'm going to try not to run. All right, so looking at this other one, you're saying, okay, whatever, just looks like a regular old problem. I'm going to use elimination. So you pick two. I'm going to pick these two and cancel the z's, and I can pick the other two in a second. So I like to rewrite them out. And we start to add. And when I add, my main goal was to cancel those, but this cancels and this also cancels. That gives me nothing on that side, so I just write that as 0. That's going to equal 15. So special cases do pop up with 3x3 systems. For this one, we would say the answer was no solution. So I just wanted to kind of show you that, because I feel like sometimes when it's a little bit of a different problem, you're like, I don't know if that should happen. But no solution problems still happen, or special cases happen when all of your variables cancel. So just be on the lookout for those. So let me show you just what your assignments look like. I just like to try to minimize any confusion, or I don't know if there's any problems. I'd rather have you see it before you leave, and then you get a general idea of what's happening here. So on Thursday, I'll see you guys tomorrow with our Google Meet. at 9:36. And then you'll have a little afternoon thing. But Thursday, Friday, you're basically going to be practicing this stuff and making sure you're okay, and that everything is good because we're actually at the end of the chapter. Woo! So what that means is practice this week. Next week is a review at the beginning on Monday. And then on Thursday, you're going to be having another at-home assessment. So we've had everything at home this year, I guess, which kind of benefits you. So just if you see something pop up, let me know. So on Thursday, you'll click in, so this is set up in Google Sheets. There's 4 sheets, aka there's 4 problems. So it's nothing too crazy. You're just gonna go through each one individually and kind of fill in. So for each of them, it's actually having you follow substitution. So it's just something to kind of get used to. And it has you go step by step. Like it says, hey, rearrange this equation for x. So you would just click in here and do your little blah, 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 whatever you get. And then you just substitute in, show your work, do all that fun stuff. So that's kind of just fill in the blank, nothing too exciting, but better than doing like 8,000 problems in a packet. So there you go. So that's your Thursday. Friday, you're gonna click on this. You just have to wait a second. You have to wait, let it load, blah, blah, go away. So it's gonna give you the instructions. And the first problem says click on problems at the bottom. So you always click here first. It's just gonna give you a few systems. You're solving for X, Y, Z. You just have to make sure you input the answer correctly. That was the main thing I wanted to point out to you. Your answer to this is X, Y, Z. And number 1, you're putting X, and 2, you're putting Y, and 3, you're putting Z. So then you go back here. So I know it looks like 3 different answers, but it's the answer to one problem, if that makes sense. So let's say your answer was 5, 2, 7. 5, 2, 7. You would put 5, and then 2, and then 7. You can see mine turned red. It's kind of self-checking. If it's red, you did it wrong. So you would go back and say, oops, I did that wrong. Let me check it. I have no clue what the answer is. Let's put 2. Or I'm just going to say, oh my God, magical. I just guessed 2. Oh my God, that was so exciting. So it turned green. Okay, woo. So once it turns green, you notice that some of these fill in. So this is called paint by pixel. Every time you get something right, more fancy things will show up, and then by the end you'll get like this beautiful picture. So it's kind of nice. But the nice thing I like about this is it's self-checking. You know if you got it right or wrong. If it's wrong, you should go back and fix it. But once again, it's not a ton of questions, but just getting used to solving via both methods so you feel comfortable as you go. Obviously, if you ever have a major issue, I pretty much have my email up all the time, and I'm always checking it because if I don't, I'll have a million. So always just email me if there's a technical issue or if you have questions about directions or anything like that. So your work gets done and we're all in a happy spot.